With YouTube attacking alternative media, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon for just $1 per month. Link below. So I'm coming up on my 6 years of running my YouTube channel, 3 years almost of being full-time, and one of the things that I really get annoyed at when it comes to being a YouTuber is always having to defend what I do. Because there are always people out there that will never fully understand the complexities of doing this, even though it comes across as a very simple job or a simple career or maybe even a simple existence. It's actually anything but. A lot of time and energy goes in to every video produced on this particular platform, whether it's something as easy as what I do, which is look at an article and read it, or if you just want to do a live stream and talk to people, which ultimately is where this video originated, is a part of a 2-hour nightly live stream where I cover a multitude of stories that end up becoming videos for my channel. A lot of work. And so I always get really annoyed when I see certain things like this saying, "Welcome to YouTube, Bloodsports, the alt-right's newest recruiting tool." Now, for the sake of full disclosure and everything else, I know Andy Warski and everyone else that's going to either be mentioned in this or have been involved in this. And the internet Bloodsports, the Kumite, Tonkasa's bullshit freaking podcast in the morning is a lot of what this whole thing boils down to. And it's just what it is. It's stupid internet drama. That is stupid internet drama. It's not a recruiting tool for the alt-right, no matter how much they're trying to make it that. Now, granted, this article comes from Right Wing Watch, which clearly is biased in its belief, but I still feel compelled to defend what they do because it's not an alt-right recruiting tool. It's just drama for the sake of views, clicks, and probably some money. Which is what a lot of us do. I'm being honest. I'm being honest here. Now, it says, over the past month, prominent alt-right personalities on YouTube have carved out platforms for themselves on a handful of popular live stream political debate channels, where they've engaged in debates against classical liberal, libertarian, anti-social justice warrior YouTube talkers. The series of debaters, which is affectionately dubbed Bloodsports by their participants, has provided the white nationalist alt-right with its latest chance to thrust itself in the political consciousness of young people and to appeal to some members of the subcultures that have splintered from the movement in recent months. Well, there's actually a reason why this has happened. Ultimately, it's part of the economy of YouTube. The alt-righters and everyone else that are kind of mentioned here, classical liberals, libertarians, anti-social justice warriors, yada, 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 we all made our money off of advertisements that were running at our videos. When YouTube effectively took those away due to the adpocalypse, people needed to find an alternative. YouTube's answer to that was super chats. Super chats allow you, the audience, people watching at home right now, the ones you see in the chat, to donate money to the person that they're watching or the channel that they're watching live. Now, YouTube takes 30% of that for some reason. I don't know why. It's redonkulous how much money they take, which is why Streamlabs is a better option. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But the point is that people out there found that these kind of blood sports can draw a large audience, and as a result, people are entertained, and therefore these super chats flow. It has become essentially just a business alternative when the ads have gone away. That is the truth of it. That is legitimately what it is. It's YouTube forced this kind of blood sport to happen because they failed to address the adpocalypse in a meaningful way and really tried to hurt the channels that had made a good living in 2016 talking about the type of content that they're now almost squabbling over. Now, the Bloodsport phenomenon grew out of a fight about race realism, which is how some white supremacists refer to their pseudo-scientific claims about racial superiority. A private group on the chat service Discord had been debunking race realism claims using scientific arguments. After the group was exposed to the public, its critics alleged that some of the doxing operation that had been distributed personal information of various white nationalist YouTube personalities and targeted them for harassment. This was enough to get various factions on YouTube of political personalities publicly feuding amongst themselves. It wasn't just that; it was also the Kilroy thing, which happened around right at the same time. The two were not connected, but because there was some overlap based on people's involved, it did spin out of that, so to speak. And as I've claimed multiple times, and I'll claim it again right here, a lot of it boiled out of just pure ego. But you kind of have to have an ego to do a YouTube video. I think to be a YouTube personality, there has to be some semblance of ego there. And I'm not criticizing it as a negative. I really do feel that a lot of it is just ego. I have it. Everyone has it. I can't say that I don't. I'm criticizing myself right here too. But I mean, also this doxing service thing, I think we've basically kind of come to the point now where Crowd has explained it enough to where, yeah, I don't even know if I would call it as much of a dox. It might have gone towards that point at some point, but I think its intentions originally were just to do the research, and it just got out of hand because Kraut went, I think, relatively insane. So when feuding between various pundits reached critical mass, alt-right figures who promote race realism and white nationalist advocates for the creation of ethnostates offered themselves up for debates with YouTube personalities who have channels much larger than their own. Taking advantage of the attention that the feud was providing, alt-right figures were able to secure spots on YouTube channels that boast hundreds of thousands of followers and go up against some of YouTube's biggest political commentators such as Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Akkad, who were eager to inject themselves into the public hype. I don't know. I mean, Sargon likes to get involved in this kind of stuff, but he's not as fervent about it as he once was. So I think it was just the Richard Spencer thing that really brought him in. I think that's ultimately what it boiled down to. So it is what it is. But I would say that to an extent, this particular paragraph seems relatively accurate. One of the most prominent channels hosting these debates belongs to Andy Warski, a YouTube personality who has grown significantly sympathetic to the alt-right. Warski appeared this month on the alt-right anti-Semitic podcast The Daily Shoah, hosted by Mike Enoch Pinovich, where he said that he thought people falsely believe Pinovich advocates genocide. The word Shoah translates to Holocaust. And this is where ultimately I'm wondering how much of this boils down to just memes and people who don't understand meme speak. Again, it's kind of like one of the funniest jokes on YouTube or on the internet to me is the Hitler did nothing wrong meme, simply because of how it came about. And so even though in the context of it being a secondary title for Mountain Dew, that was a competition that was upvoted by various trolls on the internet, it kind of lives on in its own way. And I once made that crack to my mom, and then I had to explain to her the entire meme, and my mom was like, "Oh, that's actually pretty funny." Like, yeah, once you have the context, you can find the joke. And so I'm wondering how much of this was that. I don't know. I'm not trying to put words in Andy's mouth here, or Mike Enoch, whatever. I heard him talking on the podcast, the debate with Laura Loomer, where they basically said that Charlottesville's Heather Heyer, who passed away, was her own fault for dying. So clearly he's not what you would call a good person. But again, that's what it is. In the past few weeks, Warski has hosted debates featuring nearly every popular white nationalist YouTube figure, including J.F. Garapi, Tara McCarthy, Richard Spencer, Colin Robertson, aka Millennial Woes, Greg Johnson, Pinovich, James Alsup, Nick Fuentes, and Tim Giannette, aka Baked Alaska. More often than not, these white nationalist personalities have been paired against conservative opponents who offer incredibly weak pushbacks to their arguments. Only on a few occasions have they faced true, strong counter-arguments. One of these debates featured Sargon of Akkad and Tarl Warwick, a.k.a. Stick Hexenhammer 666. His name is Tarl? I did not know that. Okay, cool. Again, it's fine. Debating Spencer and Garapi became the highest trending live video on YouTube during its broadcast. Afterward, Spencer declared that he had destroyed the debate. I don't know. I don't know how much you can say that you destroyed your competition in the debate when I believe that there was a black woman that came out of a shower. So ethnostate, right? I mean, come on, folks. So you got Tara McCarthy here, who known, I don't know if white, would you call her a white nationalist? Is that what you call Tara McCarthy? White supremacist? I'm not too sure. I really don't pay much attention to her. Saying that she was talking here with Stick Hexenhammer. Now, Warski claims that he's simply hosting a free speech platform, and he accuses his critics of advocating the censorship of the channel, which Andy's been running on that platform for a while now. Personally, I get what he's trying to say. He's trying to argue free speech in its most simplest terms, giving people a right to debate our platform to debate their ideals, which I guess ultimately I would agree with him on. I do, even though I think he's doing this for money and popularity, but he's running on that platform, and that one is the one I agree with him on. Says here, the series of debates and interviews hosted on channels like Warski's have inspired near-daily discussion threads on the internet cesspools of 4chan and 8chan, and have attached large alt-right audiences that have taken advantage of the pay-to-hype YouTube super chat to spread messages promoting white nationalism. During the Sargon-Spencer debate, there was one guy with like a swastika avatar posting like super chats that were like $200 at a time. Yeah, so yeah, that's not entirely wrong there. Less talked about arenas for the alt-right debates include GNet's channel, which featured Spencer Robertson, an anonymous alt-right user braving ruin, and crackpot conspiracy theorist Laura Loomer, and a small channel called Tonkasaw, which occasionally manages to book higher-profile conservative figures. I don't watch the Kumite anymore. I see people talk about it quite a bit. I see it pulls in a fair amount of viewers, which is, I guess, hey, good for Tonka. But you know, it's just one of those things where, like, to be perfectly honest here, like the content of the Kumite is ultimately benign, moot, when it comes to the concept of just YouTubers as a whole. And as I said at the beginning of this, when we do what we do, you kind of have to defend what you do. So to further explain this, it ultimately boils down to just people like to talk. And a lot of us who do this full time spend a lot of our time not making videos at the computer working on videos. And so oftentimes people would just sit there and send you a Google Hangout link or a Skype link or something like, hey, come on in the conversation. And you end up spending a fair amount of time talking to people who are streaming because you're working on other things at that moment. That's probably more of a concise answer as to why these things happen. So it's just, it's not intentionally meant to be provocative. It's just people are bored and they want other people to talk to. YouTubers are inherently social creatures. One of the reasons why VidCon worked out as well as it did is because we all talked to one another and we were meeting each other for the first time. That was a big part of it. So it's not like malicious in nature. It's just, it's boredom, you know? Now, Warski and others present Bloodsports as neutral exercises in free speech. Alt-right YouTube personalities are happy using debates to make money via stream super chats and expand their reach among young audiences. Andrew Anglin, who heads up the neo-Nazi website Daily Stormer, praised Warski for hosting alt-right figures, because of course he would. He was a dude who he got his website booted off of the known internet because of how he characterized the death of Heather Heyer after Charlottesville. Like, of course he's going to be pushing back against the establishment, going to be advocating on behalf of Warski in this particular case because of the popularity of it during that moment in time. So that, again, it's not like this is something that doesn't have like context backing it, you know. And so as much as I am not a fan of Andy Warski right now, I just find it interesting that they're trying to lump him in this kind of stuff. It's a show. It's an act is the best way I can describe it. And I've heard that from many other people. Like I said, a lot of us talk. So while other white nationalists such as Spencer have openly gloated about their success in Bloodsports, saying here, after I destroyed skepticism, it's safer to wear a fedora again, hashtag make fedoras great again. Yeah, but come on, Spencer, I know you're trying to be a facetious bitch here, but it's a trilby, dude. Come on, not a fedora. Indiana Jones wore a fedora. You're wearing a trilby. You are not Indiana Jones, and you never will be. But that's ultimately what it boils down to. And now the SPLC has in fact labeled this sort of thing a hate group, which I don't agree with at all. I may not like these people as on a personal level, but I will defend the right to have these discussions. I just don't watch. I don't listen, and I just choose not to. But I find it interesting when people on the left here are criticizing them for just talking to one another, because that is a tactic that ultimately happens on the left more often than not. Look at Bill Nye the Science Guy going to the State of the Union with a representative who might be heading up NASA. Right? He was denounced by the left because he accepted the invitation from a person who would be a person of which he would need to have a cordial relationship with if he was to get the type of work done that his group, the Planetary Society, is trying to do. Sometimes people just talk to one another. All right. Now, the big political debates, the big political crap shows that happen are done with the intent of being as provocative as they can be for the sake of earning the most money via super chats. It's entertainment. Tonka is a big fan of wrestling. Failure Accomplished is also involved, a big fan of wrestling. My theory, and based on what I've seen, I would say it's probably more accurate than not, is they've applied very similar tactics in order to get popular with these particular streams. Now, will this video be disseminated on their channel? Probably, and I don't care. You know, they disseminated a video of me the other day that I was crying in my silver play button unboxing video. That was a thing. They did that, right? Like, ooh, good for you. I'm not attacking them here. I'm pointing out they found a way to turn something that worked for something else into something that works for them. It's actually very, very, very smart. So I'm giving them credit just in case I need to spell it out for them if they don't understand that. What I mean by this is that if you label these people something that they're not, you end up shutting off any and all dialogue that could possibly happen. We have become a very politically divided country, society, whatever. And people on either side never really want to communicate with each other at all anymore. It's one of the reasons why VidCon was very cool to those of us who went, because people who were there with various different opinions were able to find a common ground. And even though I don't agree with anything the alt-right or these white nationalists say in terms of their personal identity politics, I'm not going to sit there and advocate for them not to have the right to speak. And I would hope they would do the same for me. Sadly, people on the left, like the author of this article, Jared Holt, simply doesn't understand that and would rather label these people as something as alt-right sympathizers or recruiting for the alt-right, rather than at least acknowledging that even though they might be dicks, they're just talking.